Hey folks, and welcome back to West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. Things are getting a little difficult for Leeds United at this moment in time. 6 goals conceded in the last 3 games, a very difficult loss to take against a relegation rival in Burnley, and a match coming up on Friday against another relegation rival in West Ham United. And so the question has to be asked, do Leeds stick to a very similar lineup that they've been playing in recent times, or do they try and shake things up a little bit and make a vast amount of changes to that starting lineup? So I've put together an 11 that, if they're all fit enough to start, would it be worth giving this a try? It's against a team who, despite changing their manager, have not gained any confidence yet. Their own manager has even talked about anxiety within the squad. So this really could be a good time to play West Ham, especially with it being at home at Ellen Road. So let's look at the changes that I've put into this 11. So replacing Caldalo would be the returning Lucas Perry. He's back in team training. Whether he's fully fit enough, I don't know. I would imagine Daniel Farke will make that apparent in his press conference later this week. But if we were to make a change in the goalkeeping department, obviously Lucas Perry would be the obvious choice. There is other options like Millier and Cairns, but Perry was bought for £15 million. He's not been bought to sit on the bench. At fullback, I've decided to keep Jayden Bogle and Gabriel Gudmundsson because they have been 2 of our better performers this season. They are 2 of our more attacking outlets that are both also showing reasonable... Sorry, just my cat's doing stuff in the background there. They're both... Gudmundsson for me has been the new signing of the season, and I'd go as far as saying our actual best player of the season so far. Jayden Bogle's held his own as well, for the most part. So, on the basis that the alternatives would be Justin and Byram, you know how much I respect Sam Byram. And it's been a bit of a shame that he hasn't even made the squad in recent times. And obviously we spent a chunk of change on James Justin, but again, neither of them have really shown. But I don't think it's not as much about what Byram and Justin haven't done yet, more about the fact that Gudmundsson and Bogle have done enough, I think, to keep their place for now. So I would keep Bogle and Gudmundsson at fullback. I would make a double change at centre back. Now, people will question this, and I'll give you my reasons as to why I'm making a double change here. And again, like with the Darlow thing, Darlow hasn't been terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but he has been part of a defence. You could argue that Gudmundsson and Bogle have been part of a defence that's leaked 6 goals in 3 games, but it's the difference with Bogle and Gudmundsson is that those 2 provide some attacking outlet, and it's while still offering a reasonable defensive solidarity, however you want to pronounce it. Strauch has come up against a lot of scrutiny in recent weeks. I really like Pascal Strauch. I think he will be a very good defender in time. Still young-ish, he hasn't hit his prime years yet. He's still only like 24, 25. Give it after this season, he's then starting to get into his peak years, of which you would then expect his level to have gone up a bit, and then that's the kind of level of player that you're going to get from Pascal Strauch. And I guess a similar situation with Joe Rodon. He is slightly older, but again, maybe after this season, that again, Joe's comfortably into his peak years, and that's the best kind of level of Joe Rodon that you're expected to see at that point. Going on for the next couple of years. Joe Rodon's played very well this season, but again, he's not completely without fault regarding some of the goals that we've conceded recently. So, why not consider a double change? There's so many people out there crying for Jakobiol to start. To be honest, why not Seb Bornau as well? Just because Bornau was only bought for 5 million and Biol was bought for 17 million, well, so? Forget the price tag, let's see who's got the better quality. Biol looks an absolute physical unit, there is absolutely no doubt about that. He is a big boy, right? There is no doubt in that. And it's possible that maybe Bornau can, whilst Biol acts as like the brick wall in front of Perry, you've then got Biol that might be a little bit more, he might have a little bit more pace about him perhaps, still reasonably physical himself, but, just maybe a little bit more fluid in his movement. The fact is, we haven't seen enough of Biol and Bornau to be able to judge either of them. So coming up against a team like West Ham, at home, could this be the opportunity that Yaka and Seb have been looking for? So for me, it's that central three in the defence there: Perry, Bornau, and Biol. Quite a bit of money's been spent on them. Let's see what they can do. Moving on to midfield. For now, I would probably keep Ethan Ampadu in there. He is our best captain, and if we're taking Strauch out of the equation, who is the club's vice captain, we need a captain in there. You can argue that maybe the armband could have been given to Sean Longstaff, who has been a very good vocal point, as well as playing quite well, for the majority of the season so far. And while I think there is quite a lot of Ethan Ampadu's game that needs to improve, very much like your Strauchs and your Rodons, Ampadu's still not hit his peak years yet either. I think Ampadu's even slightly younger than Strauch. So Ampadu's got a lot of growing, a lot of building to do in terms of his overall play. But he does offer, for the most part, pretty good leadership. When you think of the captaincy being passed down from Liam Cooper to Ethan Ampadu, and how good a captain Liam Cooper was. Liam Cooper, we all remember, was a very limited defender, but he gave it absolutely everything on the pitch, and his leadership was very, very good. No one can ever question that from Coops. In terms of our modern day captains, I think Ethan Ampadu is growing as a captain for Leeds. I do. I think he's showing some pretty good leadership skills, and he's getting better. I'd like to just see a little bit more of his overall game, but we need a captain in there. So I'd stick with Ampadu. I think Longstaff has been very influential, almost like a vice captain, really. So I would take Anton Stack out of the equation, because Stack has started to look a little bit shaky in recent matches. He made a fantastic start with a goal and an assist, quite early on, but since then he's gone off the boil. So I'd stick with Longstaff and bring in Tanaka. The other alternative option is potentially bringing in Ilya Gruev as well. He'd likely replace Ampadu, and so you'd have Gruev at the kind of like the anchor man, if you like, with then Longstaff and Tanaka a little bit more advanced going forward. Tanaka, he made one substitute appearance where he was put on the right hand side. That failed. That was horrible. Not Tanaka's fault. He was played out of position, and that was on Farke. The sub appearances he's made since, where he's come on and played in central midfield, has been more like bit more like the Tanaka that we know. A very safe, dependable, reliable central midfielder who can keep possession, gets the basics right. He very rarely gives away possession, very rarely makes a bad pass. And I think Tanaka needs to start a game just to see if he can get his own self-confidence back. I think he is a confidence player, and I don't think him getting all these sub-appearances is doing anything for his confidence. So I would bring Tanaka in to replace Stack effectively. And then onto the wings. If Noah Okafor's fit enough, get him back in, for God's sake. He's probably our most creative player that we've got. And until he got that injury, he was looking like he was getting better and better. Looks a good player. Does Okafor? If we could somehow get Noah Okafor fit, I think we've got a proper Premier League left winger there. I really do. Dan James made the bench last time out, so if we can hope that Dan James is somewhere closer to full fitness, get Dan James back on that right wing, please. We need more creativity and service to the front man. The likes of Noah Okafor and Dan James can do that. The other option is Willie Nonto, but he's kind of out injured at the minute. Don't know how long he's going to be out for, unfortunately. Maybe Daniel Farke will make us aware of that in the press conference. I feel like Aronson and Harrison can offer something. I just don't know what yet. It's a conundrum with those two. You've got Aronson, who actually in recent games has started to show a little bit more forward thinking, and has gotten forward and has had a couple of chances and opportunities. So from that point of view, Aronson's doing basically everything that is being asked of him as from his manager, or we assume so. We assume that he's doing everything that Farke's asking of him. And then with Harrison, we know that on the ball, his ball control is very good. He's proven to be very good with the ball at his feet. It's his end product that he needs to improve. He's got to get more accuracy. The crossing and the set piece taking, if he ever gets back on it, has got to improve. It has to. The most annoying thing is, I think he's capable of improving. It's just whether he wants to. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm not one of these that's jumping on the bandwagon that some of the other content creators are doing, where they're basically, occasionally they'll look for scapegoats, and the most recent scapegoats have been Aronson, Harrison, and Strauch, and to a slightly lesser extent DCL. It's not about scapegoats. It's about looking at form, and what is actually going wrong in these games. Why have we gone from being very, very solid, bar the Arsenal game, to conceding 6 goals in the last 3 games? Is it solely because Farke has told the team to create more chances, which apparently, according to the metrics, we are doing? But then also, we're conceding goals. This is why I'm not a Leeds United manager. This is why I'm not a professional football manager. Would I love to take my coaching badges? If someone gave me the money to bloody go and get them, I would. I really would. I'd love to be a football coach. I think it'd be a really interesting job. Getting a full insight to what it's like coaching players, improving players, I've been a martial arts taekwondo instructor for God knows how many years. I've been a brass band conductor and musical director for God knows how many years, and it's like, having been involved in martial arts for 20 years and brass banding for 30 years, I've kind of got an idea as to how I can project my own experience forward and how I can improve either the players in a band or the students in a taekwondo class. I feel I've gained and earned and built up that leadership quality over the time. So if I ever had the opportunity to train to be a football coach and to earn my coaching badges, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I really would. It'd be fascinating to do. Like my local team, Halifax Town. I could, if there's ever an opportunity to go and coach one of their kids' teams. If I got my coaching badges, I'd jump at the chance, because that's how you get into football. You start at the very bottom, by coaching a youth team at any level, and then you work your way up. And I'd love to do it. I just need money to be able to do that kind of opportunity. So I kind of digress with all this, but with the likes of Harrison and Aronson, I really feel that they can offer something to this squad. But at the moment, I'm just not sure exactly what it is. But as I say, if Harrison could improve his end product, I don't think he'd be a bad left winger. Like, he's proven it in the past, but it was when we were coached by Marcelo Bielsa. He made players better. But Harrison's best output in a Leeds United shirt in the Premier League was 8 goals and 8 assists. It was a fantastic return. If we could get anything like that out of Jack Harrison this season, then we'd be quids in. 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 G&A for the season. That's the kind of Jack Harrison that we need. And then as far as Aronson's concerned, I mean, he had an alright season playing as a number 10 last season in the Championship, but I think he got about 10 G&A, which is alright. He had a very good first half at season. Then he kind of went off the boil, like in the middle and towards the end. Like Aronson's an absolute workhorse. And I do feel he is improving in certain areas. He's physically better. He's genuinely winning fouls now instead of just diving like an idiot because he's too damn soft. He is actually toughening up. Which I'm really pleased to see. And as I say, in the last game or two, he is starting to get forward. He missed a glorious bloody chance that he should have scored. And if he just improves his footballing intelligence a little bit, on another day he scores that chance that he had, instead of it hitting the post after being saved by the goalkeeper. Just hit it across the goalkeeper. Don't hit it at him. It just takes a bit more accuracy. Just shoot a bit earlier. You left it too late. Took too many touches. Surely coaches these days are coaching players to play one-touch football. Because with one-touch football, the opposition, even at Premier League level, opposition cannot deal with one-touch football. It's too quick. It's absolutely too quick, and they can't deal with it. It's then a question of whether we've got players good enough to actually do that. Most clubs will coach their players for 1 and 2 touch football. Sometimes 2 touches is too many. And this is what Leeds need to improve on. When we do press aggressively and when we do pass quickly, we're dangerous. We look decent and we can be a threat to to almost any team in this division. But we don't do it enough. And we haven't done it since the earlier matches in the season, bar the Arsenal game. You know, the way that we performed against the likes of Everton and Newcastle, we were so solid. We were so solid, but those two, you know, those were two of the earliest games of the season, and it feels ages ago now. So, you know, with all this in mind, we need Okafor and James back in so that we can get that little bit more creativity going forward. And then up front, how many matches does DCL need to score a goal? Whether he's getting the service or not, he's been signed as a number 9 striker. He is one of our biggest earners in the club, earning a reported £99,000 a week roughly. You know, there are certain aspects of DCL's game that do look good, and it is something that you know, it's the instincts that only a number 9 has. You know, and he's clearly got some of that. Now, in the last match, he didn't have a lot of service. I accept that, but he's had some service in the other games, and he's not scoring. So why not give Lucas Mecha a start? Mecha can still provide a physical presence up front. He can still be a handful for defenders. He's quite quick. He's quite pacey for a big boy. So get him up there. Give him a chance. Give Mecha some service. He can clearly score some goals. If you look at the accuracy of the penalty that he scored against Everton, that was a really well struck penalty. So if you get the ball into the box, you know, and the likes of Okafor and James would have the capability of doing that, you get that up to Mecha, see what he can do. Let's see if he's as accurate in open play as he is from a penalty. Because we've got to change something. Something has to change. We've got to go back to that defensive unit that we had, where we were keeping clean sheets. But we've also got to try and, you know, we had that period where we got 5 or 6 goals in the space of 2 or 3 games. You know, we've got to go back to that kind of, I know it's a made up word, but I use it all the time, clinicism. We've got to be showing that we are more clinical. And this match against West Ham, it's a prime example of where we can do something. I think we can get at West Ham. They're not in a good position right now, physically, mentally. They are not in a good place right now, West Ham, and actually in the table itself, they're second bottom, and they are leaking goals. They are leaking goals. This is a massive opportunity for Leeds United, but Farke has got to get it right, and we know that Farke doesn't make a lot of wholesale changes. The only time when he makes changes tends to be when we're playing a cup match. In a match as important as this one against a struggling West Ham United side. This is a chance for the hammers to be hammered. Like, literally, we can hammer the hammers. But we've got to get it right. So the big question is, do you make a lot of changes here? I mean, in comparison to recent games, we haven't had Perry, we haven't had Bornau, we haven't had Biol, we haven't had Tanaka, we haven't had James, we haven't had Mecha. You know, Okafor has only missed 1 game in the recent ones, so that'll be 6 changes. It's a lot of changes, but do we risk it, or do we risk keeping the same or similar kind of lineup and possibly get it wrong again? I mean, we possibly get it wrong with all these changes. You know, we made a whole bunch of changes against Sheffield Wednesday. We were terrible, and that was a weak Sheffield Wednesday side. I don't know. This is all on Farke. He's the one that makes the decisions. He's the one that chooses that team lineup. He's the one that decides when the substitutions come on. So this is a very big moment for Daniel Farke. He's got to get it right. We need the 3 points here. We've also got Nottingham Forest coming up. We could do with beating them as well. If we can beat both of those, then the loss against Burnley doesn't look quite so bad. And there'll be a little bit of a gap forming because Forest are near the bottom as well now. This is a big chance against both of those clubs, because both of those clubs are going through turmoil right now. West Ham United and Nottingham Forest are not good right now. They are not. Like Wolves are terrible. And we've just played Wolves and beaten them, right? If we can do that against them, we can do it against West Ham, we can do it against Nottingham Forest. We've just got to prove it on the pitch. Do it there and then, boys. Alright? No messing around now. We have got a horribly tough group of fixtures after the next international break. We have got to get as many points as we possibly can in this group of fixtures. We should have got something against Burnley. When you look back at it now, even a draw against Burnley would have been something. But we were terrible in that match. I don't care what the metrics and statistics suggest. The only metric and statistic that matters at the end of that situation was the fact that we lost 2-0. So that to me don't wash, right? If we are getting so many metrics correct, then just improve the most important metric, and that is scoring the bloody goals. And then the second most important metric, stop conceding them. I make it sound so easy, don't I? Score more goals, concede less goals, we win matches. If only football was that straightforward, eh? But then again, maybe it is. Simon Jordan recently came out and said that Leeds need to go back to basics. Well, maybe we do. You know, maybe we need to go back to what we were doing against Everton and Newcastle. Why have they seemingly forgotten how to play like that? You know, as Farke said, look, we can't play like that anymore because we're not scoring enough goals. At the moment, we've got to stop shipping the bloody things in. The balance has got to be found somewhere quickly. We haven't got time to experiment with things. You know, I don't like the idea of experimenting with making 6 changes to the bloody lineup. But we might have to. You know, on the basis that we've conceded 6 goals in the last 3 games, let's take the central trio, the goalkeeper and the 2 centre-backs, let's take them out of the limelight, even if it's just for one match. Take them out of the limelight and give these 3 a chance just to see if they can cope against a team which is struggling. We're giving these 3 boys home advantage. This is the opportunity for me. After what happened against, if we'd have drawn against Burnley, this video probably wouldn't be made. I wouldn't be looking at making that many changes. But after what happened against Burnley, I would be seriously contemplating something, some kind of lineup like this if they're all fit enough. I really would. Up front you've got the option of Pirro as well. Could we really change things up and actually integrate Joel Pirro into the mix? That's another option. I don't know. Is Willie Gnonto fit enough? Can we get him in? Even if Gnonto's on bench, can we bring him on at some point? I don't know. It's exhausting, is this? I want Leeds to be in the Premier League. This is where we belong. But we've got to start figuring out ways. Like that Burnley game was humongously disappointing. It really was. So something's got to change. I mean, if we lose against West Ham, I think Farke's job's under threat. I really do. If we draw, it'll depend on the circumstance of the draw. If we've drawn after conceding, so in other words, like that. So if Leeds score to equalise, maybe depending on the balance of play, that might be acceptable. But if we draw because we've conceded, so if we were winning and West Ham equalise, again that's going to feel like a loss. So Leeds have got to be on it this Friday. They've got to be absolutely in West Ham's faces. and we've got to get the win. By hook or by crook, we have got to get that win. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. Tell me your thoughts on this. Would you make a lot of changes to the first 11? Or would you stick to a similar 11 that we've had over the last 3 games or so? Let me know your first 11s in the comments down below. Big thank you for watching. Do please give the video a thumbs up. Do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. YouTube's on a bit funny. They're wanting people to kind of watch these things via mobile now, so do please watch it on your mobiles. Hit the hype button as well if that's a thing. I don't even know what's going on, but yeah, do please support the channel. Really appreciate all the support that comes through. Let's hope for 3 points on Friday. Let's see what Daniel Farke's got to say in his press conference, and in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.